So yeah, so Ricky Garza, it was someone that had a construction company. They had their headquarters, but they were actually moving to Austin, and they were moving their headquarters over to Austin. And so they had a lot of people working from home, different things happening, and they were willing to rent out part of their space to help cover costs as they were transitioning to Austin and opening their new headquarters in Austin. And so Ricky was able to benefit from that, and he ran his office out of part of their engineering office for 3 or construction office for 3 months. Right, my branch was actually a doctor, so this was somebody who was a I can't remember what kind of doctor. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He was a doctor, and he owned his building, right? There's people that medical professional, people that invest in real estate, and they might own their own building. And so he owned his building, and there had been a vacancy, like someone else used to rent that before, but he hadn't re-rented it because he was actually going to expand his practice and take over the whole building. And we were like, oh, when are you planning on doing the expansion? He's like, soon, in the next couple months. Like he didn't have like an exact date yet. He just knew that was coming soon. And we said, hey, would you be willing to let me rent that space just for 3 months? I'll prepay you for the 3 months, and then you can start your renovations and expansion right after that, give you some cash while you figure everything out, and then go. And shared with him what I was doing and whatever. He's like, you know what? No problem. Let's do that. And he helped me and let me rent that space for 3 months. I had a whole freaking doctor's office, like a reception area. I had 8 private offices. Like, it was nuts. You do not need that. But I just got lucky that we found that there was a doctor we found that owned a building, and they had a space that they were going to be expanding into. And so they weren't doing long-term renters, but they were down to let me use it for 3 months. And I prepaid those 3 months, right? Jeff Gamboa, my division manager, he ran his branch out of a church. And so in his local town where he was running his branch, he was having a hard time finding office space, and he actually went to the local church. And he knew somebody at the church, right? And so this is good if you're a church goer, if you have family that's a church goer. And he shared with them, like, hey, I'm going to be running an office this summer, and I'm looking for a space where I can run, like a classroom style setting, which a lot of Sunday schools and youth group, like, they have classroom style settings, right? In the church. And he's like, I'm looking for like a classroom style setting where I can run some interviews, where I can run small trainings, on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And on Wednesday nights, we have a team meeting or whatever, and wanted to see if there was space in the church. And the fact is, guys, most churches, like my church that I grew up in going to, they weren't using every classroom in the church during the week. Usually it was Sundays where it was packed, and then like youth group night. But there were still openings around the church. And so anyway, long story short, Jeff Gamboa ran his branch out of a church. All right. I know someone else who they rented a barn. They used a barn in their local town to do it, and it was an air conditioned barn, right? And they had Wi-Fi and stuff that they had there, because they would rent the barn for different activities or weddings or things like that. And they let him use the barn as his office for the summer, and he paid for 3 months, and they let him rent it because during that season in the barn, especially think about here in Texas, this was in Florida, by the way, but what does a barn feel like, in late May to early August? What's the temperature like? Hot AF. Got it? So not a lot of people do weddings in the middle of a summer in a freaking barn, okay? They'll do that in the fall. They'll do that in the spring. And so for the people that like to rent the barn for occasions, summertime, it was great to rent it to someone for $1,000 a month and let them use the space, because they weren't really doing much with it during the summer. Their busy season usually started in the fall through the spring, and those couple peak months of the heat, they didn't have much happening there. And it was air conditioning and stuff, right? But no one plans a wedding when it's like 102 degrees outside. So anyway, that was where they ran their branch, right? Jarrell Williams, one of his, and whether it's a mom, an aunt, maybe someone's friend, they had a beauty salon, right? And in the beauty salon, the building, the side of it, they had a little classroom, and that's where they would teach like how to wax eyebrows, how to dye hair. They'd bring models in, right? And it was like a classroom setting. And they, during the summer, they said randomly they'd have classes, and but really most of their stuff was during the fall and spring. Same thing. He got lucky, and they were like, hey, no worries, we'll help you out. If you want to rent that for the summer, you can rent that side. And so when people walked into his branch, They literally walked into a beauty salon and they check in at the front desk and they would say, you know, and the people at the front desk knew, and they would say, "Oh, are you here for Vector Cutco? Or are you here for a salon appointment?" And then he's like, "Okay, go that way." And they would go to his side, you know, and if they were there to do their nails or hair, they'd go to the other side, right? But he ran his, and by the way, they sold over 200,000. He won the trip. That year it was to the Cayman Islands with the company for the week. He was one of the top branches in the country. And he had a small little classroom in the side of a beauty salon. All right. And I can keep going telling you guys stories. I'm just sharing this because it doesn't have to be like a traditional space. All right. It can be, but also get creative because you might be able to get a better price, a cheaper price. If you guys know someone who owns real estate or someone who has a company and they have an extra room that's available and they wouldn't mind making a little cash and you helping with the mortgage for a couple months. And it's a win-win. You're helping them, they're helping you. Boom. Awesome. Right. So that's what we're going to put something out saying, hey, I'm looking to rent a space mid-May to mid-August to run my branch office, right? And this is something you guys want to send an email to past customers. You want to personally post on social media, and then you want to target friends and family to share your post on social media and say, hey, my son or my daughter is running her business this summer and she's looking for an office space. Read below, let me know if you know anyone that could help, right? And obviously you're going to have people who are realtors. I'll help, but a lot of realtors, a lot of places don't do 3-month leases. So if they're willing to help do a 3-month lease for you, hell yeah, you know? And if not, there's going to be different ways that we're going to go about this. So step one is we're going to do that because that's one of the easiest ways to get the best price and the terms you want, right? A 3-month lease. The other thing is if we go traditional route, like where I'm renting, we're moving into our office. I got to go pick up keys tomorrow, I think. But we have our new office space ready to rock. Well, our office space, I did a year lease. They do shorter leases. They do 3 months or 6 months. They do shorter leases, but you pay 20% more per month on the leases, right? And some places won't even do shorter leases, all right? But if they do, they charge you more. So that's why if we know people that are willing to do it, we can get a better rate, okay? The next thing is if someone's not, if they don't do short-term leases, is that now we're going to negotiate. I'm going to negotiate, or John's going to negotiate, and we're going to work on getting a 1-year lease with a 3-month out option, or an out option. And what that means is within the lease, we'll say, hey, we're testing a new, we explain to them how we're testing a new area. We don't want any, and our college kids typically do these internships. We don't want them committing and getting into a ton of debt when we're not sure how the area is going to perform. And so we are looking for someone who is willing to do a 1-year lease, but give us an out option in case we need it to either expand or, you know, or close down if for some reason the business isn't going how we thought it would in that area. And we would know that by the end of June. And so we put in the lease that basically that we have until the end of June to give a 60-day notice if for some reason it's not going how to go. By the way, is everyone going to say yes to this? Hell no. So we need a lot more options, but we typically always find someone that's willing to do it because it's a win-win. I'm like, hey, you can keep showing the space. We don't want to keep you from a long-term renter. Like I already know all that. It's like, why would they not let you do? Well, how about if someone else was willing to commit to a long-term and they could have them and then you backed out, right? So we always tell them like within that period until the end of June, if you want to keep showing the space, so that you don't lose out on a long-term renter, as long as you give us a 30-day notice or have another space you can move us to, if that happens, you know, that way you don't miss out on any potential renters. And so it's a win-win. You're getting money for an empty space while you keep showing it, and we're able to test an area out before fully committing. Okay. And so that's kind of the approach we take when we're approaching them. You're not going to do this. Got it? We are going to do this. So what you're going to do is that in the next 2 weeks, all right, and I would be planning like, do you have time this weekend for an hour or two to say, okay, Morgan, at 3 o'clock or when you get off on Saturday, can you go with your sister or can we go with your boyfriend? Can someone go with you for 2 hours and go drive around your area, drive around Missouri City, Stratford, whatever, over by you live, and just drive around and write down any for lease signs that you see. Now, we don't really commercial prop, like if it's like a plaza with an HEB or like, you know, like a strip mall area, You don't want that. Those are usually triple net leases, super expensive, through the roof. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for office buildings. And now, by the way, we're looking for office buildings, ideally that look a little bit more run down, class B and C buildings. If it's like energy quarter, glass building, gorgeous looking, you're like, oh yeah, hell no, you can't afford that. All right. We do not do class A buildings or ranches. I love Boxer. The Boxer, we're moving into a Boxer property. They're some of the best price, but usually it's a 1-year minimum. This is the first time in 9 years, by the way, I moved here in 2015, that I've heard of a Boxer doing under 1-year lease. And I guess they adopted that with their small suite spaces, which is what we're getting. And it's and they do a 20% markup. So I was like, good, you know, sometimes people just need something for a shorter period of time. And so they're filling a niche. I don't know if every Boxer property does that, you know, but that maybe is a resource, maybe it's completely out of your budget, you know, so we just have to take a look at that. So anyway, so we're looking for, I love privately owned buildings. I love rundown, like for me, where the old office or where the office is in Clear Lake, where Jocelyn's office was, that's where my office used to be. That whole area, if you drive around, there's a bunch of different office buildings, small strip areas, but they're like, you can tell someone owns it. It's like 4 places, mom and pop. Like those are good. I ran my branch in one of those, but not big commercial high-rise buildings that are super nice. Like that's not what you're gonna have, okay? So, so just driving around, and if you're not sure, just write it down. Like write down every 4 lease, because then when you guys call, you'll be able to actually edit, you know, who's good, who's not. We'll be able to figure that out, okay? So this right here, let me pull this up. Hold on. Go. I accidentally closed this earlier. I had it pulled up and then I lost it. Let me see. But we actually have you don't need to worry about this yet. We're going to go over this next week anyway. Not now, but I'm going to give you guys a script next week to start calling places that you guys find to just check the parameters for it. Okay. And so this is not you doing all the work. It's just like, oh, I'm just calling for my manager to get a couple, like you're just basically getting a couple, need to ask them a couple things so that we can see if it might be a potential place or not. Okay. And so I'm going to show you guys what that looks like. But basically you're just asking like what vacancies they have. Do they have anything that's between like 400 and 800 square feet? Be like, it could be higher. Just our budget is you know, at about $1,000 a month or less, you know, all inclusive. And so, you know, we want to, we always say 400 to 800 square feet. Like my place, just so you guys know, is 800 square feet, and that's the pilot. All right. It's a small little space, but we have access to reserve conference rooms. And so we can reserve conference rooms when we have the bigger trainings, because in our office itself, we can fit 10 to 15 people, like for a training. If we wanted to squish in the heat of the summer, we could squish 20 for sure. But the reason we got it is that we can reserve, there's like 4 or 5 different conference rooms and they're free, and we can reserve those in advance. So I was like, cool, in the peak weeks, we're just going to use those, or anytime they're available, you know? And then during the school year, we don't need a big office, you know, like that smaller office works perfect. So if the pilot isn't going to have more than 800 square feet, you don't need more than 800 square feet. Okay. And if you have it, great. You know, like I said, my branch, I don't know, dude. I think it was like 1,500 square feet or more. It was huge. Maybe it was 2,000 square feet. You don't need that. I just happened to have found someone that had space that they were going to be remodeling and expanding into, and they just were doing it in a couple months, and we were able to agree that they'd let me use it. So keep that in mind as we're going through. But we're going to give you guys, you're going to ask about that. You're going to ask, and I'm going to give you guys a little spreadsheet so you can write notes on it of like how much per square foot is that. Just, is there triple net, right? Is there more cost? Does that include electricity? When does electricity shut off? Sometimes you have 24-hour access. Some buildings I've had 24-hour access. Most shut off at 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. If it's an office building, Saturdays at 2, and no air on Sundays. That's most. And with that, you have to be careful about windows and stuff, because it can get way too hot. And you can buy little cooling ACs to help out. But I love the small mom and pop, and you having your own meter or if they have AC. Some places have AC 24 hours. Like Jocelyn's building, they have AC 24 hours, like where I used to be. It doesn't shut off. Where other places it does shut off. Okay. So we just want to know that so that we're looking at prices. Because if let's say, Morgan, you find a place and it's, $800 a month, like that's a decent price for a place. But if it doesn't include AC and now you're spending an extra $300 a month on AC in the middle of the summer, because y'all, it gets real hot in Houston. All right. If you don't know, and the AC bill, if you're paying it on your own, it can get real high. And I remember in Sarasota in Florida, one month getting a freaking electric bill for $380. I was like, what? Right. Like and from then on, I started watching the AC, turning it off, turning it lower, because it was just running on full blast all the time. And I didn't know, I didn't think about it. And I screwed myself with some pretty hefty electricity bills. So anyway, we want to know that. And so we're going to give you guys a list of questions so you have that. But step one is we need to start collecting numbers. And so we want to get this done. Like the sooner the better. If you can go this weekend, I would go. And so like Claudia and I went literally for like an hour and a half, and we just drove around and I wrote down numbers and I called them. And then that's how I found this office building that I went, looked at 2 different buildings that I really liked that matched the credentials and the pricing I was looking for. So like the ones that were like $24 a square foot, I was like, no. Like I need something that's like under $16. And so these buildings were like $14 to $16 a square foot. I was like, cool. And then we were able to like, negotiate some stuff there. I got a free month. I got a discount on something else. I was like, all right, cool. So we're going to do all that stuff for you. So can you drive around this Saturday for an hour or two with a friend or family member, or this Sunday? I like Saturday, like after 3, or Sunday, like earlier in the morning, if possible, depending when you go to church, if you go to church, because it's less crowded, like don't go office searching at 4:30 on a weekday. You're going to like just be sitting in traffic everywhere you go, So, so that's why I like the weekends, and you're just writing down, and you want to drive around like the mailman. That's what I was taught, right? Like you're going like up and down the streets this way, and then going back, east and west streets this way from your territory to be able to capture as many of the, for lease signs and areas where there are office buildings. All right. So that is step one, which you guys want to have done, ideally, by March 1st, like by next weekend, like this weekend and next weekend. Can we do that? Some of you guys are going home for spring break next weekend, right? And then some people like Jackie has spring break the following, like hers in New York is later. So she doesn't start her spring break until the weekend of the 16th. So I was like, or actually maybe the 9th through the 16th. So anyway, she'll be a little bit later, but can we go on the weekend and start collecting phone numbers and getting that? And then 2, can we put up the post, which I'm going to create here and right now for you guys so that you guys can share that, and have that. All right. So that we can see if any of your customers, any of your family, if anybody knows of any kind of office space or location that might be able to be rented to you. And I'm going to put some different ideas, on there as well that they can see and help them thought jog. And then going out and collecting numbers, because the goal is that when I get back from Europe on March 10th, that next week, we're going to start making calls, or we're going to start condensing options, because really we're supposed to have all office leases in by April 1st, if not summer kickoff the latest, which summer kickoff is April 12th. And again, everything sounds like a longer time run than it is. The weeks go by. We're about to finish February and it's March. Okay. So we need to find spaces. We need to call spaces. We need to narrow it down. Maybe none work out. You have to go out again. Maybe you didn't finish the whole area. We have to check somewhere else. But we need to go through this process. And basically, the last 2 weeks of March is all I have to help close down, 14 offices. So we need to make sure you guys are helping us so we can get as much of this done. And that when we go to summer kickoff, everyone already knows where their office space is. We have leases locked in. We're ready to go. There's always 1 or 2 of you that are not going to have it by then yet. It's a lot of stress going into the summer. That happened to Brooke last year. It was super stressful. We were still trying to find a place in May. And it just distracted her from what, like from being able to focus on our office. We were trying to find an office space. So we want to get it done earlier for you guys so that we don't have that stress. Cool. So any comments or questions on that?
Is there any way like we can look online or anything, like as well as looking
You
in?
can, but usually there's a leasing agent. It's usually more expensive. Like I've never, in my 22 years, I found 2 offices online that worked out of about 200 offices I've opened, maybe more. So yeah, you can look online, loopnet.com. I found one office there once. Obviously you have realtors, but like all is going to be overpriced. They're usually looking for long-term leases. Like it's not going to work for what you want. You want something that's like by owner, like a small building where they own it themselves and have a sign up front, and like they don't want to deal with like the realtors and all that because they rather just get the full profits. Like those are the best case, but you're only going to find those driving around. But yeah, definitely. I would say and, not or. So it's like look online, post here, post on social, talk to customers, and then plan time to go drive your territory and just write them down, all the ones you see that could work. You want to be pretty easy to find, usually not on a major road, although sometimes you get lucky. Like our office, Johnny, that we had this past summer in Morgan, we got lucky that it was right off the highway and it was actually really cheap. Just like the area, like just happened to be cheaper because all the other buildings cost a lot more. And the guy was just like on his way to retirement. He owned the building. He didn't really care. He even like paid for us. Like I said, well, the only way I can do is if we can have AC until 8 o'clock and if we can have AC on Sundays. And he's like, I'll turn it on for you. There happened, and we got lucky. There happened to be a different air conditioning for the front of the building of upstairs and downstairs where that plastic surgery place is now that there was for the rest of the building. And so he didn't mind turning it on for us. But by the way, had he been a big conglomerate or building something online or talking to a realtor, I wouldn't have gotten that. But I literally called and I spoke to the owner of the building. His office was in that building. He sold it right before we moved. We had a new person, like he sold it going into last year, or I don't know, sometime in the summer. They ended up selling spring or summer. But he was super sweet, and I just got lucky with that. And that's why you just want to get a lot of numbers. Because he was just like desperate to fill the last spot and he was on his way to selling it and retiring. And so he didn't really care. And then the new owner, just had to inherit whatever leases were already in place. So anyway, I got lucky with that. So the more options we have, the more chances we give ourselves to find those like hidden gems. So any other questions with this? So never ever post on, Facebook without a picture. Cool. So put a picture of you. Maybe it's a picture of you at your banquet getting promoted. That's a good photo, by the way. If you guys didn't receive those photos, I can send you the folder where they had all the pictures that you can download from your banquet. But anyway, so attention, friends and family looking for a summer office space. So again, put your promo photo or a photo of you and your manager. As many of you know, I've been working hard for this internship and I'm officially opening, I'd say my office in 2 months. I need an office mid-May to mid-August during my summer break. Most buildings want 1-year leases, so I'm reaching out to friends and family to put feelers out there. I'm open to running my office anywhere that has air conditioning and ideally 400 plus square foot of space. Looking for 400 to 800 square feet, can be larger, but limited on funds and want to be smart with my budget. AC and Wi-Fi connections, ideally open, open, open concept. What did I put? Oh, small part. I meant to say open room. So open room or open concept, with a small private office or access to one. 24-hour access, ample parking. All right. If they end up asking you what's ample parking, you need at least ability for 8 or more people to park at the office. Cool. Some places say you only get 2 parking spots and then they have like no guest spots. Like they're super tight on parking. That's not going to work for you. You're going to start getting towed and things will happen like it did for me when I moved to Miami, and that's not fun. So you want to know there's parking. And then I just put can be non-traditional. People have even ran their branch offices in the following: at a church, / rented a Sunday school room, an air-conditioned barn, side of a hair salon that has a classroom, an office with within a larger office, parents' construction company or office building, accountant offices, who might downsize or have extra space after taxes. Don't forget main tax season's over April 15th. So some people they don't need all the space they have because people are only working seasonally and then they leave and then they come back. A building converting offices to something else, but working in phases, and rented part out for 3 months while they worked on the other parts of the building. House an investor was flipping. They set up as an office for the summer. And then just put, I'm open. You guys can add more ideas, but those are ones I know of my people who have ran their branches like that. I'm open to options, but looking for a win-win where someone can allow me to rent a space for 3 to 4 months within my budget, max 1K a month, including electricity. And they can also earn some extra cash. Hold on, I'm sorry. So max 1K a month, including electricity, and they can earn some extra cash while I get to run my first business and get a great resume booster and experience that will last a lifetime. Please tag anyone who owns real estate or has access to office space or a classroom-like setting and might be willing to learn more about what I'm doing. Thank you all for your help. Cool. So some version of that, you can just copy paste that. You can adjust it, throw in some emojis, make sure you have a picture of you at the top. And let's post this so that you guys can start pulling feelers out and tag people that you know. Maybe you have customers, right, that you've already talked to. Oh, my message is too long. I can't put it all at one time. I'm going to put it in 3 chunks here in the chat. All right. And let me see here. But let's post this up so that we can start. So I was saying, oh, tag anyone that you know that works in real estate, has it, but we're really looking for people that own real estate. Okay. And I bet real estate agents are good to talk to because they might know a lot of investors and real estate investors. And so there's people that do flips and they haven't sold their house yet. And the house is just sitting there and they would gladly take $1,000 a month for the house, right now or whatever. Now that you want to get a smaller house so you can get cheaper rent because with AC, or they're just like a friend of the family and they're like, we have a house that's not being rented right now. Like that happened to me last summer. Someone was like, hey, we have a place. You guys can just use it and pay the electricity bill, And so they might have a bunch of places they own, or they might be someone that has a lot of money. Maybe they that's a way they're contributing. They're like, you know what, John, I have 10 properties. I've got 3 that are open right now. I'd love to help you with your first business, and you pay them a small amount of rent and they'll let you use one of the houses and set it up like an office, and you have a kitchen, you can do cutting clinic, you have the office space. And so that could be something cool, maybe with a small 2-bedroom house or something, So just getting creative. I've always kind of stayed away from offices or houses because for young people. If you go to the Heights, you guys know there's a lot of businesses and houses, right? Have you guys been to the Heights? Like my chiropractor, the office is a house, right? You walk in and the side room, this is a room, but it's the waiting room. And then, the I don't know, whatever the front foyer of the house is the reception area. And then you walk through the door and the next room is where they crack your back and do stuff. And then the back room is where the doctor meets one-on-one. So but it's literally a house. The UPS in the Heights is in a house. And so that's regular, especially certain towns, it's more normal than others. The problem that I have with young people doing it in a house, and there's the last part of the message, is you just need to be careful. You guys can't have drinking there. You can't do stupid things there. You don't want a lawsuit. You don't want someone suing you because something happened or someone was sexually assaulted, in the house or upstairs or whatever. And so you have to be very professional and treat it like an office. And there's no doors shut with anyone in there. Doors are always open or shit. I would take the door just off and unhinge them except your personal office door. So that way no one can say anything. It's all open space, So anyway, that's not ideal, but that's an option if we need it and you have someone that owns real estate and they're willing to rent it to you, it could work, right? Grant's mom had asked me about that. Can you just run it in the condo? I was like, you can do the downstairs and it's just block off. No one goes upstairs. Upstairs is where he lives. Downstairs is an office. I said, you just have to be careful. I told her the same thing. I said, you just have to be careful for lawsuits, right? As long as they're doing things right and there's no parties or drinking or people going up into bedrooms and there's no beds or anything that they could even go into, then it could be okay. But we just have to be careful. I told her I'm more comfortable with our professionals and our district people who are older doing that. I'm a little bit more scared when it's young people doing that because they turn into a fraternity house. And guys, there's a lot of things that can happen in a fraternity house that are not good. And you don't want to deal with those legal implications. Okay. So we want to be careful with that. Cool. So other questions with any of this here?